Hey everybody, we are on week 4 now, so let's take a look at what kind of assignments you've got going on this week. And so starting off with a pretty typical set of assignments here with reading in the textbook, video lesson, the quiz to go along with that. Also have another group assignment, pretty similar kind of setup to what you saw last week, where you will have an Excel, a spreadsheet to work on, and then a quiz to go along with that. And so make sure you're getting together with your group. You should be working on both of those things together in your group. And then you've got your Maple TA homework there. The one I really want to look at right now is this budgeting case study. And so what we've got going here is this will be an Excel assignment that you'll work on just individually. And so let me pull that up. I've got the spreadsheet up and I want to take a look at a few things here in the spreadsheet. So this is what the case study looks like. And so a few things on this, you'll see these little triangles on the corner of a lot of these boxes, and you'll want to make sure you hover your mouse over that and it will bring up this information. Some instructions and hints will be there. And so starting here, we want to do this. It gives you some instructions. What you're trying to do is balance Seth's budget for him. And so it does give you kind of some more background. If you scroll over here, clear to the right, we've got his background story over there, and that's good to read through starting off. And then first thing you really want to do after that is type in his receipts, and that's going to be over here, just filling in his remaining receipts here. All right, and then you're going to continue on and you'll be filling in Seth's income and expenses and estimating what it's going to cost him and helping him balance his budget through these semesters so that he doesn't overspend. And so one cool thing about this spreadsheet, you'll notice down here at the bottom it has this "How did I do" button right here. And so as you start to fill things in, you should start to see more of these showing up green, correct. And in the end, what you want to see is that you've got 44 correct out of 44 possible, right? That's the goal that you're aiming for. You also want to see that his budget is balanced. And so you should see that it says right here, his budget is balanced. And so on this, that can kind of help you out and help you pick out any errors you might have as you work on this. And so that's nice to have. This third tab down here is optional, as it says, and so this is just for you if you want to start keeping track of your budget, doing some of your own things here. All right, so some things as you start working on this and where I commonly see errors. I think most people do pretty good filling in the income and the semesterly expenses. Usually that goes all right. Finding that new savings balance. Some things I would suggest as you're filling things in, use formulas as much as you can in this. And so like this new savings balance will be the difference between his previous balance and his estimated semesterly expenses, which will show up in here. And so you'll find some formulas already entered in. Don't mess with those. Leave those alone, and any of the stuff already in there you'll want to leave alone. But I would say use a formula. And so you're not familiar with using formulas in Excel, all you have to do is start with the equal sign. That will tell Excel to do the calculations. I want this to be this difference between previous balance minus whatever his expenses will be. Hit enter, and that's going to do that. And then you'll find if you do it this way with that formula using those cell references, then as I start putting numbers in, whatever they may be, you can see that's going to automatically change. And so that's nice. If you do find you need to change some things, then you won't have to redo all of those calculations yourself. So say most people do okay with that. The tricky part usually comes in down here when you start working on his budget. And so the first thing you'll need to do in this part is, you notice he kind of went in the hole. He spent more money than he had. His cash flow is in the negative. He needs to take some money out of his savings account. And so that's the first thing you need to put in here, is how much money does he need to take out of his savings account. And so as you type that in, you should see this come to 0. That's your goal, is to get this value to 0 right there. And then you need to come up with new monthly goals for him. And so reducing some of these numbers will be an important part of that. And so as you do that, you may see on the How Did I Do tab, some of these might turn yellow and say, okay, but you need to explain how this is going to work. And so that's okay if you do see those in yellow, as long as you have a reasonable explanation for how Seth is going to manage that. And so usually that happens if you've reduced it a lot, and just an explanation of how is Seth going to be able to do that right there. And so in the end, he will be withdrawing some money from savings each month. And so that's a value you'll end up putting in here. But we need to make sure after 8 months, including January, the amount he takes from savings in January, and then the 7 months left in the 2 semesters, that he doesn't withdraw more than he had in savings, because he's really not adding any money to that savings account. And so that's this part right down here. And it says down below it that it should be 0. It's actually okay if you end up positive, so that he has money left in his savings account. That's okay too. And this will turn green when you get that, but it's important that you don't just type in a 0. It only turns green if you've done your calculations correct based on the other numbers you have up here. And you'll only see that marked correct over here when that's the case. You've done those calculations correctly. And so another one where using a formula, that's kind of handy, because it might take some playing around with his budget to get that to a point where he is not spending all of his money in savings, or he's at least not going in the hole. He's not spending more than he has right there. And so that's what you'll be looking for as you complete this one. So I hope that helps you get started on that. One last thing I wanted to take a look at here as far as your assignments go. Let's go back actually here. The Unit 1 reflection. And so getting down to the end of this unit, you'll usually see these reflections 1 week before you finish the unit and before you take that unit exam. And so next week be the first exam, just as a heads up. But in this reflection, what I wanted to point out is these questions are kind of thoughtful. They're reflective questions. And so it does say here to write a cohesive paragraph, at least 3 to 5 sentences. And so do put some thought into these. I will be looking for those 3 to 5 sentences at least on these, and some thoughtful paragraphs when I do the grading for these. And so make sure you are putting some substantive answers in for each of these questions. All right, that's most of what I wanted to cover. If you do have questions, especially on the Excel, I know it's kind of a tricky, that budgeting case study is kind of a tricky assignment. And so if you ever have questions, want to send me your spreadsheet beforehand so I can take a look at it, or you're getting errors you don't understand, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to help out with that kind of assignment. And if you're not familiar with Excel, I can also help out with the formulas, that kind of thing, or direct you towards some resources you can use that'll help you out with those things. All right, looking forward to another great week.